This week I get to sit down with Eman Pulis, founder and CEO of the Sigma Group. In the wake of lockdown, he's found himself moving all his actual events to a virtual platform, and he tells us about how the difficulties and also the successes of this. Now, Eman has built his global gaming brand in Malta from the ground up. His humble story also has its just rewards, as he finds that after the success, the feel-good factor is in the giving back. I hope you enjoy. I am speaking with the amazing Eman Pulis. He is CEO and founder of the Sigma Group. We've known each other for about 7 years now. Want to talk about how he structured everything and has brought everything with his company and brought it to the status that it is now. I remember coming to meet you in Malta in August 2016, I think it was, and you took me around the island and you were telling me about your 5-set strategy of what you were going to do and where you were going to go. And it'd be really great to see whether you're where you said you'd be and how that's changed and so forth. So, Eman, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. How about you?
Excellent. And the family's good?
Family is great. Daughter is having a lot of fun.
Good.
We're back in Malta for a month.
Okay.
Or until COVID calms down a little bit. Otherwise, I live in Manila.
All right. So Sigma, amazing brand that you have built literally from the bottom up. And it is growing and growing and growing. Did you foresee where you are now then?
Oh, hell no. You know, the dream was always there. And events are beautiful because you can build them from thin air. You don't need this huge capital raise. If you do it properly, you earn some, you spend some, and you don't need the big investments, the partners. So I've run a profitable business from day one, and I've never looked to any other formulas, to be honest with you. But yes, I had a vision for growth, a dream for growth, but you know, the growth from when I was here until I got here is by far not a linear growth. I mean, I went all over the place with thoughts, with vision, with action points. So I was all over the place, and I learned a lot by doing.
Brilliant. Now, entrepreneurially, people say that do what makes you happy and the money will come. Don't foresee the money beforehand. What are your thoughts on those two aspects of how to approach it?
Yeah, I love that approach. And I think I'm a living example of that. I didn't realize I had made my 6 figures when I made them. I wasn't paying attention to the numbers. No, I was just having a great time meeting people. And once again, I missed the mark when I hit the 7-figure numbers a little while back. So that's usually a nice milestone, you know, to become a millionaire. It's a milestone of many hungry startups. But I had no clue. It took me a few months to realize that we had hit that milestone. So yeah, money is not a driving factor. It is one of the driving factors, but it is not the driving factor. Being in the industry and helping solve a problem.
Yeah.
So being in the industry and actually helping solve a problem, to me, has a lot more value.
Brilliant. That's really lovely to hear. And you did do that. Sigma takes place, your flagship event, Sigma, takes place in November in the gaming hub of Malta. And I've seen it grow exponentially in the past 4 years, and it is a must-attend event. What I love about it is that you celebrate the offering of networking in the instance that there's a great amount of learning within the conferences, but it's sandwiched between networking, parties, dinners, and so forth. So you allow your attendees to absorb all the time they have whilst they're there in order to meet people and really extend their global reach. And I am a child of that essence, as well as in hosting and making sure everyone feels comfortable enough to go out there and say what they have to say. Where did that concept come from?
Oh, great question. I've been an events guy all my life. So it's not like I have a gaming background and decided to do an event for the friends I knew in gaming. I knew no one in gaming when I started doing Sigma, but I had 15 to 20 years experience under my belt doing events. Okay. And trust me when I tell you, whether you're organizing a big party, a concert, or an expo, the dynamics hardly change. I know there's a big difference between the two, but the dynamics hardly change. So instead of DJs, you're hiring speakers. Yeah. And it's those speakers who bring the audience in. Pretty much the same thing in terms of dynamics. And it's worked really, really well for me. So I believe a lot that people come to gaming shows to network, not only to listen to speakers, because the industry is very mature. Yeah. Unlike, for example, the blockchain space or the med tech space or the medical cannabis space, people have a big thirst for knowledge. So the content part in summits like those is much bigger, is much more in demand than in gaming. I don't know if that makes sense, yeah?
Yeah, totally.
We emphasize a lot on content, but by far, I think the secret sauce to our shows is the networking, as you're rightly saying.
No, totally agree. And in the instance of the lockdown and the partial collapse of the event industry, how has your move been from actual events to virtual events? What have been the learnings that you have taken on in the past, 10 to 12 weeks? Because it's accelerated. It's been quite steep, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Look, I'll be honest with you. The first few weeks, nightmare. I hated it. I mean, I'm a hugger myself, no? Telling me that I'm not allowed to meet people anymore, especially colleagues from the industry or even organizing events where we encourage handshakes. I mean, it's a nightmare. But following those 2 weeks of crying, we soon realized that there's a silver lining to the situation. And where myself as a CEO failed, where our CTO failed, I'm going to throw him under the bus. I think COVID-19 succeeded because we learned something from COVID-19. We learned that we need to adapt fast with a number of implementations that we did. So one of them was the following. We realized we live in a global village. Okay. The way the pandemic spread helped us think that gaming truly is a global phenomenon. So we decided to convert our website, whereas before we were dominant in English, every content piece was in English. We decided to do a complete overhaul, migrate our website to a different platform, and have all content in 5 languages. So instead of hiring people exclusively, we also started hiring people a few weeks after COVID hit. Okay. People who we thought we would have never needed. That includes translators, content writers in Portuguese, in Spanish, in Mandarin, as well as in Russian. So a much bigger emphasis on media content, and that was brought by COVID-19. That was one of the changes that we did. Another change, which we felt didn't have to wait, was the launch of a third big show. So we have a big show in Europe, we have a big show in Asia, which also had to be postponed. And we decided, listen, we were going to launch LATAM in 2022, but there's so much debate going on across LATAM on speeding up the regulatory process to enact new laws, for example, in Brazil. We said, now is the time. There's no barriers to entry. We don't need to invest in an expensive venue. We don't need to invest in an expensive office. Let's launch as soon as possible, the virtual edition of our LATAM version. And so we did. So a lot of silver lining, and the atmosphere here in the office is very upbeat.
Must be buzzing, exciting. No, I love it. I see also as well the Sigma Asia, which is coming up this month, or it's coming up next week. It starts on Monday. But you've also tagged on Sigma Deep Tech. So in terms of creating a virtually co-located part of that event, how much easier was it now that there was no need for the actualities of space? How easy was it to build that into an event that's taking place already?
Yeah, I mean, finding the right platform took us about a month.
Okay.
Month to months max to find the right platform.
Uh-huh.
But again, going back to, or latching this to your previous question, you mentioned something very important here, the Deep Tech Summit. This is something we've realized. Okay, so when you speak about COVID, you have the extroverts who have taken it really badly. Then you have the introverts whose life has barely changed. No, because they love being at home, they love being on the laptop. And we were thinking, well, in the gaming industry, who are the people who are usually always on the laptop getting things done? And that's the coders.
Yeah.
So we said, listen, there has never been something that addresses those folks. Why don't we exploit this opportunity when everyone is locked in at home and do a conference by techies for techies? So for the first time ever, we decided to reach out to CTOs, coders, game developers, and we said, listen, we want to do this. The response has been phenomenal. Again, if it wasn't for COVID, this Sigma Deep Tech would have never taken place. And so I'm truly humbled when I say, thank you, COVID, for helping us think outside the box.
Okay, so with the bad comes the good, definitely. And so you're...
Yeah. And another thing.
Yes, sir.
You told me about how hard was it to adapt.
Yes, sir.
Another plus point was the lineup of speakers. Whereas before we were known for the networking, now we had no choice but to really zoom in on quality content. And so we did. And I must tell you, because there's no barriers to reach out to top speakers, they don't need to fly in, we don't need to take away a whole week from their busy calendar. We managed to get some of the world's finest speakers to grace our virtual stage these coming weeks. I mean, before you had to fly them in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always easy. So the top speakers, the top brass in the industry, especially for the blockchain show, they wouldn't usually fly in so easily. Okay. But because it's just a matter of putting on your headphones, we have the best of the best this coming week.
Sounds exciting. Well, I'm booked on, so I'm really looking forward to next week. Now, Latam Digital, you said you were going to add that on to your roster in a year or so, but you pushed it forward. And again, that's the reason for COVID, and you wouldn't have been able to do that before. Is there anything else that you would like to do that you're going to bring forward as opposed to stagger it?
Well, we brought forward the LATAM show, and we brought forward the need to focus on more media. So before we were 90% events, maybe 10% media. We want to balance that out by lifting our media presence. Okay. That's why we converted our site into a much stronger platform. We're converting our content into 5 languages, not just 1. Yeah. And I think those measures will boost our media presence out there.
Brilliant. And I think so. I think so. You're doing a wonderful job. I absolutely love it. Now, in the absence of actual networking, for you, and the content is there, it's fabulous. You say it's second to none. With networking, how are you ensuring that the buzz of the networking is assimilated through the virtual screen?
Yeah, tricky one. Obviously, you can never replace the holistic experience one gets when you travel to a show.
I agree.
People travel abroad not just to sit down and listen to a speaker, because that you can do on YouTube.
Yeah.
But people travel because they want the full experience, cultural, historic, touristic. Plus, when you're doing business, there's so much that goes into non-verbal cues, non-verbal communication. Most of the business deals rely on those non-verbal cues. How warm is the person to what you're saying? How is his body language?
Yeah.
You know, all of this is gone in a virtual conference. So it will be tough to replicate that.
Yeah.
I must admit. However, with the resources that we have, we're implementing some stuff. One of them is a networking poker tournament. Poker remains one of the most social iGaming verticals that we have. And in fact, numbers for poker have exploded during COVID. So we decided to take lessons from that, and we have a networking poker tournament online. Other than that, it's all on our platform. So the software that we'll be using will facilitate some networking as well. But again, it's limited to chatting, and you can't quite replace the real thing.
Yeah, but we will certainly try. I am excited for your roster coming up for the rest of the year. Definitely. In terms of anyone fearful of taking the jump and moving into an entrepreneurship type movement, what would be a few tips that you would give someone, seeing how successful you have been and watching you grow has been very motivational, sir?
Thank you. That's very kind of you. If there's one thing I've learned is that the bit of success maybe that I have with Sigma, there was a lot of sweat, blood, and tears. Yeah, so I failed multiple times before I succeeded. But every time I failed, I took something with me that made me a better entrepreneur for the next venture. So my advice, if there's younger folks following us out there, is jump on it as young as possible that you are, and make as many mistakes as you can when you're young. For example, if you're a student, join student organizations, experiment in those organizations, because no matter how many times you fail, people are not going to judge you because you're still enjoying student life. Once you join the real life out there, it becomes harder and harder to do mistakes and bounce back like nothing happened. No, so the more life experiences you can collect from a young age, the better equipped you'll become as you grow older and more mature, to launch a business.
Wonderful. And now we are no longer whippersnappers. What advice would you give to the more wiser aged group who were pushing into entrepreneurship?
Always so eloquent. Always so eloquent. Again, stop bringing up excuses. If you have a 9-to-5 job that you hate and you'd love to give your business idea a go, stop inventing excuses because you can't try it out. If you need to live a less comfortable life, you don't need a car that costs 30 grand. You don't need to live in a 5-bedroom house. Scale down, live a bit more humbly, and that will give you the possibility to jump onto your dream. You need to make sacrifices, but trust me, it's better to live a simple life pursuing your dream than trying to latch on to all the luxuries in life because you're making someone else happy.
Well said.
Does that sound right?
No, it's well said. Really, it was lovely. We're all now online and we're all listening more than we are before. And it's brought my attention to the Sigma Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Look, it's always been our philosophy to give, and then ask. That's the way we sell. So if we're meeting a client, we try and accommodate. We help them out. And then those potential clients are more eager to do business with you. So this philosophy of giving is enshrined in the way we do business.
Yeah.
And moving forward with the launch of Sigma Asia, we felt we needed to step up our game, our giving game. And that's how Sigma Foundation was launched. It has a dual role. So role number one of the foundation is we want to support the regions where we're doing business. That includes Malta, that includes the Philippines, and it includes also Brazil, particularly Sao Paulo. So a lot of needs in those regions, and we already have a number of projects lined up for the Philippines, for example. In Brazil, we're waiting until we kick off the first show. So that's the role number one of the foundation. Role number two, we want to look after our employees in a way that goes beyond legal requirements. So let's say we have an employee who's going through a really, really tough time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give you a silly or a practical example. If an employee is going through tough times and with sickness, they need to cover an important bill related to medical, and they can't pay for that, perhaps the foundation can step in and look after them. So there's that extra veil of protection for the employees if shit really hits the fan. No? So that's the second aim and objective of the foundation. It feels great, and I'll be honest with you, I see myself devoting more and more time to the foundation as Sigma grows and can run on its own.
Amazing. So you've really found within your success new spaces in order to quench your new learnings for success, etc. And that's even given back. That's just absolutely beautiful, and I think a recipe that everyone is trying to find in their life. I think in this busy time, I really appreciate you giving me this time to speak with you, and it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you and learning about everything. I think this is going to come out in the middle of Sigma Asia. So I hope I'll be able to give some insights in how fabulous the platform is, what I'm learning, etc. But until then, thank you so much. Stay safe, keep the family safe, and we'll speak real soon. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Lizzie. I look forward to taking you around once again in Malta when things calm down. Yeah?
Oh, definitely. I still have that journey, and you took me up to the castle, and we had hot chocolate, and it was absolutely fabulous. So I'm looking forward to the treats on the next one when we're safe and good to travel. But listen, lots of love always, and I look forward to speaking to you soon again.
Take care, my dear.
All right.
Pleasure.
Bye, beauty. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview. If you'd like to be alerted of the new interviews coming up in our series, please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Our ID is 15Rocks Limited.